for the hardest-hitting show in talk radio. The true progressive voice since 2012. This is Southpaws.
And welcome to Southpaws on the Pacifica Radio Network. We are the leaders of the revolution. I'm Darren Gibson.
I am Jack Prince.
And we've had to adjust our recording schedule a little bit. We are recording on Thursday, January 6th. Today is the one-year anniversary of the traitorous insurrection of the U.S. Capitol by a bunch of evil, right-wing, conservative savages. Violent conservatives.
Yep.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Katy Steele could not join us tonight, and I'm going to explain in just a minute why. So before we get started, we're going to talk a little bit about January 6th. We're going to talk a lot of COVID stuff, and I'm going to say some pretty harsh truths. So I've said in the past on different episodes, hey, this is one you're going to want to listen to. No, throw all the others out. This is the one that I'm going to get on my soapbox, and I don't care who I piss off. I don't care how many stations kick us off the air. I'm done. I'm sick of it. So I'll tell you why in just a minute. Plus, double hammer time this week. So lots of fun stuff ahead. Before we get started, a couple of reminders. You can follow us on social media by going to facebook.com/Southpaws Radio Show. You can follow us on Twitter at Southpaws Radio. You can follow us on Tumblr at southpawsradioshow.tumblr.com. You can follow us on YouTube by doing a search for Southpaws Radio. And you can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/Southpaws Radio. You can listen to the show anytime at Spreaker, Stitcher, Apple Podcast, or Reason.fm by doing a search for Southpaws. And once you found our logo, you found us. We send links to our weekly episodes to our Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and YouTube accounts. You can listen to us on Global Community Radio Channel 1 every Saturday night at 11 Eastern. And you can listen to us on great Pacifica stations, including KCEI in Taos, New Mexico, KZGM in Kabul, Missouri, and KEPJ in San Antonio, Texas. So be sure to listen to us there as well. So we've been off for a few weeks. We hope that you've enjoyed the last two episodes. We did a best of featuring clips involving me, Jim Gerner, Joe Elder, April Crow, Jim Chase, Dan Ward, of course, you and Katy, Jack, and KJ Millo. Then we also did our off-the-cuff, best of off-the-cuff episode, which got it. That was pretty good. We had a lot of response for that one. But we are back with new episode today, and the reason that Katy isn't here is because we've had to record a little bit early. I guess I should probably start with what happened while we were off for the last 4 weeks or so, because our last episode was on December 10th. Sometime right a few days before Christmas, I had been feeling a little sniffly and had runny nose, stuffy nose, and I was starting to sneeze quite a bit. I usually get sinus infections this time of year. So I went to the doctor to go get some antibiotics, and I did not see my usual doctor. I saw one of the PAs, and she said, hey, while I've got you here, would you like to do a COVID test just to be sure? I said, yes, absolutely, because I don't want to spread it to anybody that I care about. Well, I got the test done that afternoon or morning. I forget if I had a morning or afternoon appointment. At 5:30 in the morning, I got an email from my health plan saying I've got COVID. So later that morning, I contacted my health plan and was able to get hooked up with the folks that do monoclonal antibodies for the health company. It's the same health company. I'll just say it is Spectrum Health. So I had to drive to Greenville to what was once a mobile mammogram lab that they had converted over to do monoclonal antibody infusions. I keep wanting to say injections. I guess that's one way you can get them, is a series of injections, but they prefer an infusion where they just put an IV and let it drip into you. So I did that with two other people in the room. One was a nurse who worked for Spectrum, or I don't think she worked for Spectrum. Yes, she did. Worked up at one of their hospitals north of where I live. She had both immunizations. She did not get her booster, and she worked in the COVID units with COVID patients. She just hadn't had time to get a booster, or she might not have been able to qualify for one, depending on when she was vaccinated. The other was a guy, I believe an electrician in his 40s, no vaccination. He said, "Oh, I've been healthy all my life. I never get sick." And his wife got the sniffles, and he started to get it. So she tested negative for COVID, and he tested positive. And I believe, if I remember the story correctly, he told us that she's been vaccinated, he hasn't. So while we're in the infusion, the nurse looked over, the nurse that was getting infused with monoclonal antibodies, looked over at the electrician and said, "Well, does this change your mind about getting the vaccine?" And he shook his head no. Jack, you don't know how much restraint it took me to keep from jumping out of my chair and wrapping my hands around that selfish p***'s neck. Yep. I'm dead serious. It's ridiculous.
It is, and the stupidity that we are facing is deadly. We've had stupidity. We've had redneck idiocracy. We've had the corporate infused propaganda for a long time, but nothing to this degree. Nothing to the degree that the country is holding its breath tonight on the night of the anniversary for the insurrection, hearing that the clouds of racists and supremacists are hovering still and communicating and talking about the next action. We listened to Mr. Carter today say that our democracy, I'm talking about Jimmy Carter, our democracy is hanging by a slim thread. That's not hyperbole. The voting structures of democracy are being taken apart state by state, and the wackos that were in the courtyard on the 6th of January have moved into boardrooms. They've moved into local political sites with their violence, with their threats, with their domination. And they have not skipped a beat. They've just moved over a lane. And we sit here tonight talking about the man that you told me about. We have to agree that that is indicative. That is a board hitting you in the face and then laying it back on the floor and stepping on it again. That kind of stupidity can bring us to ruin, Darren.
Yes, it can. And let me give you another example. I was gone most of the day today, and I'll explain why in a little bit here. But we have received a bunch of snow in the state of Michigan. I understand, Jack, you got it a hell of a lot worse in Grand Rapids than I did up here.
Yeah.
So we still had enough that we had one of the neighbors, somebody that we've known for a few years, he comes over and he plows our driveway because my mom's 83. She'll be 84 in a couple months. So he goes around and he plows out the old people's driveway just to kind of help them out. A little bit of cash. He doesn't do it for the money. He just does it to help. And he got done, and my mom went to pay him today, and they started talking. And I had no idea he had been sick with COVID to the point that he got pneumonia. They put his wife on a ventilator for a month. She was in the hospital for 2 months. Probably not sure whether she was going to survive it or not. And my mom asked him, "Were you vaccinated?" "Nope. Not going to get it either." Here's the scarier part that my mom told me about. This guy has a daughter that's in nursing school. She works for a health system that's about ready to can her because she will not get vaccinated. She's still in nursing school. This should scare the hell out of everybody that's hearing this right now. That you have people that are supposedly wanting to go into the health field with this type of anti-science bullshit. Because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So
we're looking at the denial of basic truths in science. The very popular Netflix show called Don't Look Up has a single message. And I marvel at all of the deflection and alternative messages the media, particularly the same media that the Netflix special attacks with their corporate and financial desires over the truth. All of the alternative themes for the movie range from a comedy to Chicken Little, The Sky is Falling. But the truth is, the message in that is that stupidity now may kill us. Stupidity in the movie, where people were out on their lawn shooting at a meteorite with a gun after they had denied the scientists' interpretation of a global threat. Stupidity, where we let corporations in the movie say there's such value in meteorite, let's disseminate it into small pieces, which really meant that it didn't get disseminated at all, and it crushed mankind. The stupidity, and they actually have people with the red hats claiming, no, it's not happening. No, we're looking at the science tell us it is. We're looking at the specials, but it's not happening. Indicative of the COVID phenomena, where they just flat out deny even its reality still. So I have to wonder, I really have to wonder, as the glacier breaks up in Greenland, and they call it a doomsday glacier, and the 10 feet sea levels, the time for their arrival may be cut in half. I really wonder if the generation right now, the 15, 16-year-olds, have a different way of looking at life. If it's not a shortened view, Darren, where they have no promise, they have no excitement about the future. So they grab for momentary gratification, things that you and I may have waylaid and worked on for a future. They don't have that future. The world right now is looking at betting what's going to get us first. Is it going to be global warming? Is it going to be the complete covering of Florida by water? Is it going to be the upheaval and civil war that you better believe at this moment the right-wing nuts out there are frothing at the mouth?
Let's just call them what they are. Evil, violent, conservative savages.
Yeah.
Because they're all violent, they're all evil. They all are. All of them.
They get aroused talking about taking Pelosi out and hanging her. They get off. They get off on talking about, I just heard it, hanging every single senator who voted to confirm the election of Joe Biden. Hanging them out in the square in front of Capitol. Mm-hmm. This is a dream that is and not fictional. This is not a subconscious reality. This is the reality that we're facing right now. It is that we have a noose around our neck, and the other end of the rope, it's in the hands of a, as you call him, savage, a red hat, ignorant, motivated, energized fool has the end of that rope around your neck, my neck, society's neck, democracy, and they're pulling it tighter every day.
Yep, they certainly are, which gets to where we're at now, which is why we're recording tonight and we have to record without Katy. Katy is fine. There's nothing wrong with her. So we unfortunately had to make an executive decision to record without her because our normal recording time is early Friday morning, and I am not going to be available to record on Friday morning. And the reason why is because somebody that I love, somebody that I care deeply about, has gotten COVID. And I am taking that person to get monoclonal antibodies so that she survives. I tell you what, I'm fucking pissed at all these people, these selfish sons of bitches that won't go get vaccinated. I am sick of all of you, and I'm going to tell you like it is. Get the shot. Get it now. Don't do it for yourself. Do it for the other people around you. I'm so angry, Jack. You don't even know how angry I am.
Yeah, well, you're talking about your anger. That anger is one that should be ubiquitous. People just can't go about their business when you hear these lies being promulgated, the election lies, the non-concern for the children that we see in epidemic forms of hospitalization right now.
Yes.
I think that the message right now is that people, politicians, even citizens who allowed Trump to get away, maintaining he was cheated, maintaining that he was robbed, not standing up. I don't care. Give me a sticker on my car. Trump's lost? Amen. I don't believe it. Put that sticker on the back of your car. I don't see. You have got to. Anybody that respects Trump, I have no respect for. Anybody who doesn't speak candidly and warn of his hatred, his vitriol, his lies, just promulgates it.
Absolutely.
And we have, like you have, the anger that you have should be heartfelt all over the United States. It's not going to go away. The voting laws, the insistence on rigging these districts right here in Michigan, the district change that they initiated just today, Darren, means there's not a single black district where there's a majority of blacks. But there used to be. There used to be in Wayne County, and there was a block there of strength, Democratic Party strength, I should say.
Yeah.
And that big variance. But that's all done now. They made sure out of all the districts, there's not a single one that has a majority of blacks.
Wow. I did not know that. That's from the Redistricting Commission, correct?
And this kind of legislation is going on 24/7. You just don't hear that much about it.
Wow.
And every state is being set up so that, well, let me say it succinctly. I think Hartman said it the other day. If this next election, if the Republicans take back the majority in the houses, Democrats will never, ever again have a majority. And as a matter of fact, the Republican Party, as crazy and as hateful as it is, it's we used to rail on Cheney. Cheney stood on the side of the Democrats today in the Senate.
I was going to mention that. I'm glad you did.
Yeah, but those guys are gone.
Yeah.
You get the Republicans take over the majority of both houses now. It is the end. It is a smelly fascist state. That's what you'll have, and it will get more rotten and more smelly, and they'll put more and more perfume on it to hide it. They'll try and disguise it. They'll have acts of what look like democracy, but it's all bogus. It's not the real deal.
Yep.
It's an inverted fascism, to quote Naomi Klein, and that's what we are on the precipice of, months away.
Yep.
So why don't blame me for being pissed? I'm pissed that more people aren't pissed. I'm pissed that more people aren't pissed to the magnitude that you're pissed, Darren Gibson. I mean that.
Yeah. The gloves are off now, because this is what I want. And I want everybody to call the White House. This is what I'm demanding at this point. If these selfish sons of bitches don't want to get vaccinated, then the Army needs to go door to door with vaccine and needles. And you either get it or you go to jail and you get it. Either way, you're going to get it. That's where we need to be. Let me read this statistic to you, Jack. How much of this country is fully vaccinated against COVID-19?
Around 60, but I'm not exact.
62%. 62. That number should be in the 90s.
Right.
Because it is for everything else. Polio, 90% plus. MMR, measles, mumps, rubella, is 90 plus. There's only 15 states in the country that have vaccination rates for measles, mumps, and rubella under 90%. Now, would you like to take a guess at how many of those states are red states? Full 80% of them Let me read them to you. This is according to worldatlas.com. Those states are South Dakota, West Virginia, Wisconsin, Kansas, Alaska, New Mexico, Wyoming, New Jersey, Utah, Washington State, which shocked the hell out of me, Ohio, South Carolina, Colorado, Indiana, and the bottom state is Missouri.
You know, some of the statistics are so clear in what they reveal. I just heard that the arrests that have been made from the rioters 1 year ago, over 100 of them are ex-military and some active military.
Yes.
Okay. That's shocking. That's absolutely shocking. But another statistic is that the people that were arrested, over 50%, the majority of people, came from districts where Biden had won. And a high percentage of those people had come from districts where Biden had won very handedly, a large margin. You'd say, well, I thought they'd come out of the deepest part of the red Mississippi or, out of the strongholds, Orange County. I don't know. How about Ottawa County, up Michigan? I thought that's where they're. No. These were people who really believed that the minorities are going to take over, that the Jewish people are going to take over, that the black person's going to take their job. And so when they see Biden win, when they hear that Ottawa County, or Kent County, I should say, Kent County had a majority of voters for Biden, that sent them to Washington. They're scared. They're worried. It's that same fear that says, how can we stop the plurality of minority voters? It happened for Biden. Happen again because more and more of them. We've got to tell people that they can't vote on Sunday in Georgia after they go to church like they did for decades. We have to break up the districts. This is fascism's creep right now.
Yeah.
So you have to study those numbers. The statistics that 100 soldiers for crying out loud. See, the soldier took a pledge to protect the Constitution, not to protect the party. I didn't hear him say we will protect the Republican Party or the Democratic Party or any party. It was the Constitution, and it was a breach. That was an attack. Bob Woodward said clearly the other day that was on the January 6th of last year. That was a direct attack against our Constitution. That was denial of electoral processes, et cetera, et cetera. And that would be what I thought the pledge contained for the soldier. I didn't say I'm going to get my brass knuckles on and beat the shit out of guards in front of the White House, hang Pence, and then drop my GI pants and take a crap on the floor in front of Pelosi's office. Yeah. I don't think that was in the creed, was it?
No, I don't think it was. Last I checked. Maybe they rewrote the creed while we were busy trying to get people to get pissed about how large the military budget is. Jeez. No, I'm like I said, I am done with these people. I am to the point of what Howard Stern is. I know Katy Steele is going to get pissed off at it. I don't care. I wish these unvaccinated people would drop dead quickly and quit spreading it to people like me, who's been fully vaccinated and boosted and still got COVID. To my dear friend who also had both vaccines and a booster and still got it. This needs to end now, one way or another. And if they're not going to go peacefully, voluntarily, then force it on their ass. I don't care anymore because I care about the people I love. The rest of you can go f*** off. Right there it is. Very succinct.
Yeah, well, it's not in any way exorbitant. It really isn't. You can go howl to the moon and you can hop in bed with Ronald Reagan's neoliberalism all you want. You can chase Jane Fonda. You can hug NASCAR and drink your Billy Beer. But you know what? When you are killing, as you said, your loved ones, our loved ones, that's the end. You cannot tolerate it.
Yeah.
And,
I'm sorry.
I applaud the teachers. I applaud some teachers unions for standing up.
Yeah, the ones in Chicago.
Yeah.
They're doing a bang-up job. I tell you what, Lori Lightfoot is very lucky that she's not douchebag of the week this week because of the comments that she's made. I'm sorry. I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, or not. I don't care.
So, you know, what that union's doing, it's doing an old-fashioned thing. It's caring about the teachers.
Yes.
Can you believe it? It cares about the teachers that pay $1,000 a year in dues. It cares about the teacher's family. It cares about the teacher's career. They know the stress. They know what it means to go in a day and put your life on the line.
Absolutely.
And then get blamed for the dropping scores. So I'm jumping with glee. There's a union that gets it. And they have always gotten it there. Between them and L.A., California, they get it.
Yeah. Speaking of, since we're talking about education here, I want to get your thoughts on the record. I know how you feel because I hit you up on Facebook with this. I want to talk about what happened last week in the state of Michigan. I'm going to read this here. This is from the Facebook page for Save Michigan's Public Schools. This is what they wrote. The public education system is in crisis, and those charged with fixing it either don't have a clue or lack the political will to do what is necessary to save it. Instead of addressing the real issue, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer signed a bill that allows school support staff the ability to substitute teach. This essentially lowers the minimum requirement from 60 college credit hours to a high school diploma. By no means is this a slight to our hardworking school support staff. Those that we've worked with are absolute rock stars of what they do. But really, who do they think are going to hold the offices down and serve lunches when these critical people are in the classroom subbing? This simply shifts the stress on the system to other staff members. And did anyone even ask support staff if they want a sub? Consider this. A little more than 149,000 people in Michigan hold a valid teaching certificate according to Michigan Department of Education data. But nearly 65,000 don't work as a teacher. In the 2019 and 20 school year, 7,412 teaching positions were filled with a temporary worker or by someone who did not have the appropriate credentials for the job. Let us say that again. 65,000 people in Michigan are certified teachers but choose not to teach. That is the issue that needs to be fixed. Not lowering the requirements for substitutes, which does nothing to solve the problem. Basically, our governor and legislature just put a Band-Aid on a serious head injury and said, there, fixed it. Jack, you are a retired educator with 30 years experience. I would like your thoughts on what I just read and what Governor Whitmer did.
Yeah, I'll say that the obvious, that the minimizing of the perception of a teacher and just a taste of steroid. The place of prestige, when I was a senior in high school, they posted a list of careers that received honor, and the number one was ministers, if you can believe it.
Wow.
Number two was teachers. Ministers have stayed up in the top echelon, but teachers have dropped out of sight. And people will be saying weeks from now, well, hey, the staff that drives the bus or the staff that keeps the heat on in the building, they're teaching classes. Who knew?
Yeah.
Who knew? See, the whole philosophy changed. The idea of a consummate human being specializing in a vein of thought and discipline of academic pursuit that could manifest like a full bloom flower of academic fragrance. All that he or she had learned, all that he or she has sorted out as important to relay to the students, that's gone. That's gone. I remember the amazement of seeing professors, even my high school teachers, in an area of specialty, be it English, my seventh grade English teacher. I was just amazed at what she contained in her being from years of studying something that she loved. She alone, honestly, she alone opened up my eyes to the beauty of language, opened up my eyes to the idea of creative writing, just the discipline of speaking correctly and the power of words, all contained in a 50-year-old woman named Mrs. Campbell, who's since passed away. That's gone now. In its place is a curriculum that a corporation makes that's laced with corporate ideals that pretends to be educational, that you can plug in, that a school janitor can plug in. Anybody can plug in. Any more sophisticated than the training in the back room of McDonald's. Mm-hmm. Come in, you get 3 hours here, you're ready to teach. And all you are is a transmitter of a corporate education, a computerized, standardized curriculum, and the beauty of individual human beings that manifest their discipline of thought and study. It's gone. It's long gone. It was under battle when I taught at Grand Rapids Public Schools. These conservatives would come in, what we call PD, personal development days, and they'd say, hey, the day of lecture is gone. No longer is old, crusty Mr. Brown going to stand up there and talk about the Civil War. No, now it's on the computer. Now we have trained specialists that prepare the curriculum, and you will not be asked to listen to lectures any longer. And I said, this is an attack on the teacher. If anybody doesn't recognize what's really behind this BS, this is an attack on the teacher. So to answer your question, this is the epitome. And this is a Democratic governor saying, hey, lower the standard, take the excellence away from the career, and you wonder why we're in a crisis now of getting teachers? That's one thing they used to say, like, you can go and help kids. Now, you don't need that. Anybody can go help these kids. I'm worried about the future of education. Not worried. I'm as convinced it's on the chopping block, like our environment and our politics. And we will experience, it's a bad equation. Doomsday Glacier that just broke up over in Greenland. 21-mile crack broke away. It was in a cork between mountains that holds a whole ice field up. They had said it would take 10 years. It happened in front of 3 huge science vessels. The significance of that will be registered in towns underneath water much sooner. The significance of this legislation will be felt even at a faster pace than the breaking up of our sea levels. And kids will become more and more systemically owned by the corporations because they're going to be on the educational tip, which is called virtual education. And I used to be a coach that cared about the development of humans, athletes, my athletes, and realized that I was a transmitter. I would have in my being what they see in me will have a lot to do with what that 15, 16-year-old will be 20 years from now. Mm-hmm. It's gone. That idea, that quality and honor inside the career of teaching, like that glacier, it's breaking up.
It certainly is. Jack, you talked about a teacher that influenced you. Let me tell you all about one of my influences. In high school, my senior year, I took government course, and I learned so much about how government worked, how the Supreme Court worked, and it was one guy. When he would give a test, he would say, all right, everybody, clear off your desk of everything except a piece of paper and something to write with. Mm-hmm. He was also our football announcer, Gerald Quigley, Mr. Quigley. Mm-hmm. I used to, when there was a certain bar in Sand Lake, Michigan that was open, I would sometimes go there and see him. He'd be sitting at the bar drinking, and I would go in there with my dad, and we'd talk to him for a few minutes, and my dad would sit and have a beer or two, and I would chew on a sandbar burger and some potato chips and play the big duck shooting game that was on the wall there at the time. Oh, my God. But, yeah, I tell you what, Carlin had it right when he said that the reason that education sucks and it's never going to change is because the owners of this country don't want that. They don't want educated people capable of critical thinking because it doesn't fit their interests. It's against their interests. Why do you think we have the dumbing down of this country? You know, we've talked about Don't Look Up. We've talked about Idiocracy on this show. This is by design. It's not designed by God. It's designed by the rich who are afraid that the rest of us are going to come and cook them and eat them like we should.
Like we should.
Absolutely. Like you said, Jack, don't worry about taxing the rich. Worry about eating the rich. This needs to happen.
The liberal arts education is long gone. And you have to think historically, before they even had public schools, education was a very exclusive thing where a master would come to a rich household and teach a child and stay with that child. But if you go back and read their objectives, it wasn't to prepare that child for a job. It wasn't to teach him how to turn a monkey wrench on a sink. It was, and I'm paraphrasing, to get them to a point where they are a mature human being who really suddenly realizes how things work. They call it an epiphany. They call it a personal evolution in their mind. It's what my generation in the 60s experienced. My generation said, hey, wait a minute, this is a bag of crap. We're just working for a plastic card. That's all we're doing. We're just out competing against each other for $10 more than the other guy. There was an epiphany of understanding of how the clock really was put together, how the system really works. But that was what they wanted people to understand back 400 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so you got critical thinking. You came out and then you had thinkers talk about the corruption of capitalism. Your education today in any public school is not going to produce anti-capitalists. On the contrary, they're going to produce obedient workers. Like Carlin said, with enough brain power to turn the key on and get to work every day.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. Run the machines, do the necessary paperwork, and just dumb enough to continually accept the increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the end of overtime, the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it, and now they're coming for your Social Security money. Hey, Trump said he wanted to dismantle Social Security. I'm sorry. That came out of his mouth. His orange pig anus mouth.
Yeah, and Bush said that was his biggest regret, that he had dismantled Social Security.
Speaking of Bush, Jack, I need to get to our next segment, so let's go ahead and let's play the appropriate music.
Stop! Hammer time!
Oh yeah, it's hammer time. It is time to drop the hammer on the douchebag of the week. We got 2 winners for you this week, so anytime we've got 2 winners, here's Wade Garrett.
The double douche. Who is that guy? Gentlemen? Wade Garrett. Holy shit. Exactly right.
So Wade Garrett serves up on a silver platter this week. Winner number 1 is U.S. District Judge Janice Sammartino. What did she do? She trampled on the First Amendment, which to me is unforgivable. I have this story. This is by Inside Radio. This is dated December 29th. The producers of the Fat Leonard podcast opted to dump hours of previously unreleased interview recordings into the public sphere rather than push forward with their legal battle after a federal judge in San Diego gave them 1 week to turn the tapes over. U.S. District Court Judge Janice Sammartino, no relation to Bruno, I hope, rejected the argument presented by Project Brazen and Audiation that their work material was protected by the First Amendment. In her ruling last week, the judge said the podcast company's free speech rights were trumped by the due process rights of naval officers defending themselves against criminal bribery charges. In the Fat Leonard podcast, former military contractor Leonard Glenn Francis told host Tom Wright how he rewarded Navy officials with perks like pricey hotel stays and prostitutes in exchange for government contracts that overcharged American taxpayers by an estimated $35 million.
Wow.
In her decision, the judge wrote, quote, "Given Francis's central role as a cooperating witness in this case, the court finds that the evidence sought by defendants is clearly relevant to an important issue in this case." End of quote. The first naval officer will go to trial in February. Tom Wright, the host, posted on Twitter this, quote, "Project Brazen fought this as we believe it sets a dangerous precedent for courts to demand journalists to hand over reporting notes. Our job is to inform the public, as we have done, about this huge Navy corruption scandal and the ensuing cover-up." End of quote. He said rather than just give the tapes to the defense counsel, Project Brazen posted them online for anyone to listen to. The San Diego Union Tribune says the defense attorney's subpoena was issued originally to Audiation, the studio that produced and shopped the podcast. The creator, however, was the content studio Project Brazen, which reportedly intervened to fight the subpoena. The paper says the defense team is hoping to find something in the previously unreleased portions of the recording that would undercut Francis's credibility as a witness for prosecutors. He pleaded guilty in 2015 and is currently being held under house arrest in San Diego. Francis will likely be sentenced following the upcoming trials. First Amendment attorneys told the San Diego Union Tribune that when it comes to a criminal trial, it is not uncommon to see a judge side with a defendant over a media outlet's First Amendment rights. David Snyder, executive director of the First Amendment Coalition, said, quote, "Why it's problematic when a journalist is required to reveal confidential sources and notes, it is of crucial importance that journalists do not become an investigative arm of the state or of individual parties in a lawsuit." End of quote.
Powerful. Really.
So why did I mention Bush? Guess who appointed Janice Sammartino to that bench? George W. Bush.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope when he goes bye-bye that he's in the same place that Daddy is rotting. My opinion. I told you, I'm done with this shit. I am. I don't care. I don't care. So winner number 2 this week goes back to right around Christmas time. Did you hear about this, Jack? This guy that called into NORAD with his kids and then told Biden, "Let's go, Brandon."
Okay, yeah, I did. I'm sorry.
Okay, let me give you the story here. This is Stephen M. Lepore and Nikki Schwab, senior U.S. political reporter for the Daily Mail. This was published Christmas Day. The dad of 4 who told President Joe Biden the infamous conservative catchphrase, "Let's go, Brandon," during the NORAD Santa Tracker event with First Lady Jill Biden on Friday is attempting to clarify that he was joking. So, yes, winner number 2 is Jared Schmeck from Oregon, or as I like to call him, Jared Schmuck. Actually, one of our listeners wrote and said that you call him Jared Schmeckel, which apparently is Jewish for penis. So, since this guy is a dick anyway, I'll go with that. Why not? Oh, God. The first couple hosted kids and their parents in the South Court Auditorium and talked to people virtually on Christmas Eve. Schmeck, beaming in from Oregon, said, "Merry Christmas and let's go, Brandon," after his kids told the president what they wanted from Santa Claus. Now, let me give you a little bit of history on this Schmeck character and his family. They own a electric company in Oregon called Winema Electric, a company that says the Christian values are part of their business. Well, let's go back about 30 years to Jared Schmeck's daddy. who, according to a report published by the Los Angeles Times in 1991, was being criminally investigated as a Navy SEAL for his role in the trafficking of illegal weapons. So,
that's a Christian value.
Yep. So the apple didn't fall too far from the tree, or in his case, the dingleberry didn't fall too far from the asshole.
So he maintained that there were Christian values that were sewn into the company, right? This loser.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Which Christian value? The one that allowed and perpetuated slavery?
Probably.
How about the second-class position of a female, commonly called misogyny? Is that a value that the company or the judgmental criteria of a non-believer who is run by demons and is not worthy to be associated with? Do they sort them out at the door when they come to the business? Do they have a litmus test? Like the thermometer you put on the forehead to see if you have COVID? Do they have some kind of a X-ray to look at your heart to see if you got demons in it, so you don't do business with them? This whole bullshit about you're upset about the COVID idiots. The Christians are persecuted and the Christians are moralistic and honorable is a load of crap. The South has more sexual abuse and more domestic abuse and obesity and crime, and then the Bible Belt leads the way with that. There's no indication that it has anything associated with higher morals, or so even when people say that their business exudes Christian values, it just pisses me off, way off. But I want to change the subject real fast.
Yeah.
Do you know who Dick the Bruiser was?
Dick the Bruiser? Absolutely.
Sure. Dick the Bruiser and Alex Karras, I just read about this, had the monumental bar fight. They call it the greatest bar fight in Detroit history.
Yep.
They were going to wrestle, and they wanted to promote this, so Dick was going to come in. They had this all choreographed ahead of time and say something to Karras, and then they're going to throw a punch, and that was going to be it. But the owner of the Lindell Bar, where Karras was working, I didn't know about any of this. All he saw was Dick the Bruiser come in and start to badmouth Alex Karras.
Yeah, they kayfabe the owner of the bar. That was great.
Yeah, oh yeah. He broke the pool cue on Karras on the Bruiser's head. It took 40 minutes, and I don't know how many police. One policeman had his ribs broken, another had his wrist broken.
Oh, jeez.
To contain Dick the Bruiser. So, I read that and I said, I don't know if Darren's aware of this, but I got to share this story. This is the off the cuff that I bring to the show tonight, Darren.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Oh, yeah. Dick the Bruiser, Dick Afflis, and Wilbur Snyder used to own the Indianapolis territory. So at one point in like the early 70s, they decided to invade Detroit. And they were running opposite against Ed the Sheik Farhat until they finally agreed to, let Sheik run Detroit, and Dick the Bruiser and Wilbur Snyder go back to Indianapolis and run that state. So
yeah, both Bruiser and Karras were Hoosiers. Karras came from Gary. Imagine, he was born and raised in Gary, Indiana, the smelting smudge pot of North Indiana.
Oh God, yeah, the home of the Jacksons.
Oh yeah, and so was the Bruiser a little farther south, and then he moved to Indianapolis and lived in a YMCA so he could play a certain school. But you see these guys; they were highly trained athletes. Both of them, they were great athletes.
Oh, absolutely.
And it turned out they're good entertainers. I mean, Mongo, right? Karras was Mongo, and he played in a TV sitcom for a long time.
Yeah, Webster. He was the dad in Webster. Oh, my gosh. So, yeah, let's get back to our quick segment here. So, to Jared Schmeck and Judge Janice, don't call me Bruno Sammartino. Lots of wrestling references this week. We've got this message for you.
Don't be a douchebag.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Stop being douchebags. Oh, my God. Schmeck, really. Schmeck is something that just... speaking of, we might as well have some good news to end. Well, talked a little bit about today, January 6th, Thursday, being the 1-year anniversary of the insurrection, which, by the way, was a bunch of traitors, and they all should be rounded up and put in jail. Well, did you see that there was a press conference today? Matthew Gaetz and your girl, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh, yeah.
Since she can't be on Twitter anymore because they banned her for life. You heard about that, right?
I sure did.
And then Facebook gave her 24 hours in Facebook jail because of the same post, the same non-truthful COVID post, lies, basically. So, yeah, they get in front of the cameras today, and the Democrats are so evil, and they're using January 6th. No, the Republicans, let me just say it, the QAnons, cuckoo, they're just pissed that their tactics that they've been using for the last 40 years are being used on them. Then they cry like squealing pigs that have been caught under a gate.
Yeah.
I would make the comment that I swear the Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz are probably having an affair, but she's too old for them. My opinion.
The image of that affair would drive a man to, what do they call it? Unix. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Unicism.
Hey, this could be the U.S. version of Corsair and Gamrat, the Course Rat, remember? This Course Rat Jr., Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene.
It's nauseating.
Yeah.
It's like I'm mustard and water again.
Mustard and water, huh? Yeah, we know what that mustard and water does to you.
Oh, gee. The anniversary, though, I have to say, and as we get very short on time, the anniversary, if we had to gauge if we're better off or worse off after a year, the famous political quiz, right? If we're out of the woods of danger from these idiots, you have to say after years later, we're pretty much on chapter 2, aren't we? Nothing debated.
Exactly. By the way, there's a story that we've got on our official Facebook page. If you please go read this. Did you hear about the woman in Texas? She's a former realtor now. They kicked her out after January 6th.
Yeah.
Got 60 days in jail for her part in being a traitor. And she's comparing it to the persecution of the Jews, and she won't go as far as to say that it's the Holocaust, but she wants to. She's afraid to, because she's afraid of the backlash. Literally, that's what she told NBC News.
Wow.
Yeah, Jenna Ryan. I've got this. This is Dee Dee Martinez, Kate Snow, and Anna Schechter writing for NBC News, dated January 4th. Jenna Ryan, a Texas realtor who has sought to parlay her role in the Capitol riot into a career as a right-wing media personality, posted a tweet in March last year that quickly went viral. At the time, she wrote, quote, "Sorry, I have blonde hair, white skin, a great job, and a great future, and I'm not going to jail." End of quote. Her braggadocio apparently backfired, and she was later sentenced to 60 days in prison by a judge who noted that she had become one of the faces of January 6th. The 51-year-old Ryan reported to prison December 21st. Hey, an early Christmas present for me, right? In an interview with NBC News 5 days prior, she expressed regret for entering the Capitol but still portrayed herself as a victim. She went so far as to assert that the backlash she has received is akin to the experience of the Jews in Germany. Quote, "They're making fun of my skin color. They're calling me an insurrection Barbie. They have no idea who I am as a person, what my beliefs are, what I've been through, who I am. They see me as a one-dimensional caricature. They don't see me as a human." End of
That's
quote.
equivalent to having your teeth pulled out, your hair shaved, and then put into an oven to a high degree. I feel for her.
Yeah.
You see, you take that white privilege ass of yours and sit it down in a jail cell for 60 days. And come out and talk about the insurrection again. These people like her are in the majority. You walk through the aisles of a grocery store, they're zombies. They're there. They're out there in their pickup trucks. There's a vacuum of sanity, Darren, that it's alarming. It really is.
It literally is The Walking Dead. Brains,
Yeah, the brains have been sucked out. And then, imagine the comments that she heard. Do you think she could have gotten Common Dreams or The Daily Costs and read an interpretation of her actions and maybe had a counterbalance to her idiocracy? No. She lives in a bubble. She's in a dome. There's no thought that gets through to her.
No.
Or colleagues. Nothing.
Here's what else she said. Quote, "And so that is the epitome of a scapegoat, just like they did that to the Jews in Germany. Those were scapegoats. And I believe the people who are Caucasian are being turned into evil in front of the media." End of quote. So the reporters at NBC pressed her on whether she was comparing the situation to the Holocaust. Her response was that she was reluctant to say more. Quote, "You know what's so sad? That I'm afraid to answer your question because I will be attacked for saying that." End of quote. And rightfully so.
Wow.
Jesus Christ. What the hell is wrong with these people, Jack?
Well, the thing is that, as I said, they've reached a point where there's so many of them, they can hide. You talk about, this is stupid herd immunity is what you have. They're not going to stub their toe on any rational thinking. They're not going to run into a liberal. They're going to run into a sensible thinker. There's just too many of them. They bump into each other. They generate a synergy.
It's like friction, like you've said in the past. By the way,
they generate stupidity. They really do. They feed off each other.
By the way, while she was on the Capitol steps, she was live streaming, and she declared that she was tired of paying taxes to crooks. Here's the problem, though. At the time that she made that video, she owed $35,000 in back taxes to the Internal Revenue Service.
Jeez.
It doesn't get better than this, does it?
It's like Bobert out in Rifle, Colorado.
Oh, God.
She's got more DUIs than even Gates. No, really. And her boyfriend or her husband or whatever the hell he is was charged with indecent exposure or some sexual thing. And they got a long rap sheet. So talk about taxes when you owe $35,000. Talk about integrity when I don't think she graduated from high school. I think she got a GED.
Yeah. And
this is the quality that we've got sitting behind the seats of senators. My God.
I will never again complain about a career politician just because of people like Bobert and Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's nuts. And by the way, if I was the judge in this woman's case, I can't even call her a woman, that lump of flesh, I wouldn't give her 60 days. I'd give her 60 years. Let her choke on it.
Take her to an oven and say, okay, you create your best what they'll do. We're going to roast the white meat, you know?
Oh, Jack, you're terrible. We got to end on that, by the way. Oh, boy, we are out of time for this week, and I think we finally have reached our limit here. We'll be back next week. I'm Darren Gibson.
I am Jack Prince.
For Katy Steele, please support independent media and the First Amendment.
The stations that carry Southpaws do not necessarily share the opinions expressed on the show. Southpaws is protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and is copyrighted by Big D Entertainment. All rights reserved.